Good evening. We're ready to begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV, Cable Channel 2. Please note customers of CenturyLink and Cox Communication can view this program in high definition on channel 1002 and in standard definition on channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on the Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV and the web Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Cherry.
Present.
Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Commissioner Schlottman.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan.
Present.
Commissioner Chadha, excused.
And I will note that Commissioner Chadha will be joining in telephonically for a couple votes at the beginning of the public hearing agenda. Thank you. I call your attention to the information printed in your agenda concerning our actions in the appeal and review process, if appropriate. Please read this carefully. If you have any questions, staff is available here. There's agendas on both sides of the podium if anyone would like to grab to follow along. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. The public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to the matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion may be limited.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schlottman.
Yes, a few comments. Just want to make a few comments about David Klein. Just wanted to take a moment and recognize that this is his last Planning Commission meeting with us tonight on the Planning Commission. As his capacity as the Deputy Fire Marshal for the City of Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, as he's going to be retiring after 25 years of service and serving our community and our citizens since January 9th or until January 9th, 2020. Throughout his career, David Klein's always been an advocate for responsible and well-planned development that improves our community, follows the established codes and standards, and making it a safer place for everyone to enjoy for many years to come in the future. It's a particular passion of David Klein that any new business or property owner is educated about the maximum flexibility that is achievable for his or her long-term success through the modern plan and process. And Dave's used his keen insight and years of experience to do that for thousands of projects and people throughout the years. David, we appreciate everything you've done for us. I know I was on the phone with you earlier trying to get permits, and anyways, can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for me and my projects in downtown. And anyways, I just want to turn it over if anybody else has any other comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I have Chief Nolan, if you don't mind coming up here, I quickly wanted to say that David Klein has not only been in the position he's in, and we've worked with him for a long time, he's a friend, and you've been a great friend, and such a great advocate of downtown, and so helpful to work through complex problems and find solutions that really work for everybody, not just people putting pressure, but the city as well, and it's really appreciated, and you're going to be missed, and I hope you're around downtown still, so, and we'll see each other. So, Chief Nolan.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the indulgence for this moment, for the senior fire prevention staff, the engineering staff. Thank you for your indulgence and from the audience as well. Dave will be retiring in January, and I think it's appropriate that we kick off his victory tour as he gets ready to retire. There will be many opportunities to celebrate Dave's tenure with the city, his great service, but we felt that the initial celebration of Dave's contribution should be done here at the Planning Commission because this has been the passion. We've always said Dave's a great deputy fire marshal, but I think he missed his calling. He really wanted to be a planner. He's very good at what he does, and we just wanted to come out here in force and dress just like him and show our appreciation. Dave, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Very nice words. Thank you. Mr. Klein?
Through the chair. Yeah, I've done some great things over the years, the last 25 years, and it really comes down to staff. It's just a little bit of nudging. It comes down to staff and the great people I have working with me, not for me, with me. They made it a pleasure for all the years I've spent in the city, and I'm not going too far. Don't worry, you'll still see me hanging around here. We hope. Yes, Trinity, we'll see each other for sure a couple times. It's been it's really been a great journey. The downtown has always been a passion. I loved it since I was an inspector. It's been a joy. It really has a joy. I'm going to miss that part of it a little bit. But there's a whole other chapter with grandkids and my wife and having some fun. So thank you very much for the acknowledgement. I do appreciate it, but we have work to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Mr. Chief Nolan, yeah, can we do a picture really quick? Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5 for possible action to approve the final minutes of the, I did open up public hearing, yeah. Final minutes of the Planning Commission meeting for October 8th, 2019. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 8, 2019 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Moving on to our housekeeping items, are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant for item number 35 is requested to hold that in abeyance until December 10th, 2019.
Thank you. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the housekeeping item number 35 to be held in abeyance to December 10th.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Moving on to the consent item. Consent items are considered routine by the Planning Commission and may be enacted by one motion. However, any item may be discussed if a commissioner or applicant so desires. Vice Chair.
This for the one
Consent items number 7 and 8.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve items number 7 and number 8 under the consent agenda.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action unless appealed within 7 days to the city clerk.
Moving on to the one motion, one vote. The following are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 9, ZON 77502, applicant owners Stephen A. Phillips and Raynell Phillips for possible action request from a rezoning from U to C1 at 6651 West Charleston Boulevard, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item number 10, SUP 77525, applicant owner Afshin Rahim for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed 4,330 square foot tavern limited establishment use at 15 East Oakey Boulevard, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 11, SUP 77534, applicant owner Great Wash Park LLC for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 5,784 square foot restaurant with alcohol use with a 337 square feet of outdoor seating with a waiver to allow 141-foot distance separation from a city park where 400 feet is required at 400 Rampart Boulevard, Suite 190, Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. Item number 10, SUP 77540, applicant Petco Animal Supplies, Inc., owner KRG Las Vegas Centennial Center, LLC, for possible action request for a special use permit for proposed animal hospital, clinic, or shelter with no outside pens, use at 7731 West Tropical Parkway, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Item number 13, VAC 77537, applicant For Green Development LLC, owner RH Centennial LLC, for possible action request for a petition to vacate various public sewer easements, a public utility easement, and a public drainage easement on property generally located at the southwest corner of Farm Road and Tule Springs Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Related item number 14, TMP 77536, for possible action request for a tentative map for proposed one-lot mixed-use subdivision, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Item number 15, VAC 77569, applicant owner Section 12 LLC, for possible action request for petition to vacate public drainage easements, at the southwest corner of Iron Mountain Road and Sky Village Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. And related item TMP 77554, for possible action request for a tentative map for a 246-lot single-family residential subdivision, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. And I will disclose that on item number 10, my company's working on a project in the area. It doesn't affect us any greater or lesser. I will be voting on the item. With that, I'll open up the public hearing. Seeing no one from the public, I will go to the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to...
Please come forward to the mic. Excuse me. I'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Taylor.
Excuse me?
Eric Taylor, 10-0468 Sky Arroyo, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89166. I had a question on item 16. It didn't describe in the map that was provided whether there would be a change with the arroyo that goes right on the edge. There's an arroyo between where houses have been built and where new houses are proposed. And I just wanted to know, is that arroyo to be preserved, or is that going to be filled in?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, pursuant to the development agreement for Sky Canyon, the arroyos are to be preserved unless they get the natural waterways through the federal government, and then they can amend it to a linear-type park with an alternate design, but it's supposed to be retained as an open space element, either in natural form or in an engineered form, depending on federal approvals.
Great. And should we notice any change as far as construction is going, to whom could we complain? This chair to the Planning Commission?
In regards to ongoing construction out there, it's either the master developer, as called out in the development agreement. I believe they're doing a change of assignment, and it could be Century Communities. Other than that, it could be the actual builder of the parcel that's going on. This particular one, I'm not sure if that's Toll Brothers or not, but as far as any construction you see, it's either the individual builder that's doing the actual build-out of the subdivision, or something tied to the master developer, or in other cases, you can go through the master HOA, because that's been established.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Seeing no one else, I'll go to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items 9 through 16 on the one motion, one vote.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post.
The vote passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
vote carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 9 will be heard at the December 18th, 2019 City Council meeting. Items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days. And items number 14 and 16 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 7 days. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to the public hearing items. I'm bringing forward items number 38 and 39. I'd like to give our city clerk a second to organize Commissioner Chata telephonically. Yeah, we're having some technical, well, she can't hear me.
I just heard that.
Hey, that's me.
Who's me?
It's Sam. You can hear us?
How are you? Yes.
Okay, here we go. We are back in action for items number 38 and 39. Item number 38, DIR 77619, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action request to approve the 2020 Planning Commission meeting schedule. Staff recommends approval. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Slotman?
Well, I'll just repeat what I've said. I mean, we've had a lot of planning commission hearings that went really late. It wasn't fair to us or the public. And so I think 2 meetings were justified at this point, now that we don't have short-term rentals and everything else that was keeping us here so late at night. We've been getting out by 7:30, 8. I think 8:30 is an exceptional late meeting for us. So even though I don't feel that anybody really would be in support on a council level or whatever, I just wanted to express my opinion. I think this could be handled in 1 meeting per month to help our city planning department out. And regardless if they say it'll help them out or not, I know it will, because they're having to do twice as many briefings and agendas and everything else. And I know it puts about a 5-hour toll on every one of us preparing for it and going to additional briefings. So I think it's a waste, and I think we should go to 1, but that's just my own thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman. I will say, I think the planning department has the ability, if we see in the first quarter or halfway through, to adjust the schedule back to 2 meetings a month if needed, if it goes to 1 meeting. Is that correct?
Through you, Chairman. We are monitoring basically the numbers of applications, and then we're reporting that to the city manager's office. There is ability in the schedule to vacate meetings based on low number of projects and things of that. And at another point, you could always amend the calendar through a subsequent action.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing Trinity, sounds like requesting to go to 1. I would support that. And Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you. I'd also support that. I think that given the length of the meetings, it's not really necessary to have 2 meetings a month. I would say that since we do have the ability to pull forward items, that if there is strong public interest in a particular item, that we pull that forward and we use that as appropriate, perhaps more than we have been in the past, so that those applicants know that they need to be here at 6 p.m. just in case there's a number of different people from the community that want to speak, and we can adjust our agenda accordingly.
Okay. That's good. Vice Chair DeSalvio?
I just was ready to make a motion.
Okay, let's make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to deny these 2 meetings a month, and look forward to going back to 1 meeting a month.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, Commissioner Chadha, to go to 1 meeting a month. Deny this one.
I'll vote for that.
Okay, that's a yes vote, Commissioner Chadha. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's going to move forward to City Council on December 18th, 2019.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 39, DAR 77620, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for discussion and possible action request for the election of 2020 Planning Commission officers. Staff has no recommendation. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one from the public, I will close that, and I will first off say I think it's important that there is good rotation on the board for chair, and so I will be making a nomination for Vice Chair DeSalvio to chair in the next coming year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I respectfully accept that nomination.
So I think we should vote individually.
Any additional nominations? Okay.
Okay. Are we doing chair and then vice chair? Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote for Vice Chair DeSalvio. Commissioner Chadha, did you hear the motion?
I heard it, and I vote yea on. Commissioner DeTalio.
Thank you. Please cast your votes. Please post, and that motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that very much, and everybody on the commission, thank you very much for your support. At this time, I would like to make a nomination for Commissioner Schlottman as vice chair.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any other nominations? Okay, Commissioner Chada, we have a motion for Commissioner Schlottman for vice chair for 2020.
And I vote yea for Commissioner Schlottman for vice chair.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. Please post. That motion carries. And we'll be going back to
17.
17. So item number 17 of the public hearing. Commissioner Chada, will you be joining us for the rest of the agenda?
No, I won't be. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Okay, moving on to the public hearing items. Items number 17 and 18, abeyance VAR 77275, applicant owner Zion Levinger for possible action request for variance to allow 38 parking spaces where 62 spaces are required at 8311 Farm Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. And related item, abeyance SDR 77276 for possible action request for site development plan review for proposed conversion of a single-family residence to a 6,179 square foot banquet facility with a waiver of landscape buffer development standards, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed development fails to comply with the minimum parking and landscaping development standards. On October 14, 2019, the applicant submitted a revised plan and landscape plan drawing which provided 61 parking spaces where 62 spaces are required and revised proposed perimeter landscape widths and planting materials. However, a waiver is still required to allow a 4-foot wide landscape buffer on a portion of the south perimeter where 8 feet is required. As such, the required variance and waivers reinforce the unsuitability of this site for the proposed use. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the project and all associated applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Zion Levinger, 6533 Rio Vista. And so here's I don't know how to turn on the photograph.
It'll go to the
Okay,
overhead, and
Okay.
there you go.
So this is just an updated aerial view of it. And we've actually modified our parking again where we were able to nip and tuck some stuff to get that 60-second slot in there. So we can fully comply with the 62 spaces. It was also brought, there was a variance request for a 4-foot request here, but we do have plenty of space there for the 8-foot requirement. So to my understanding, unless I'm missing something, we're compliant with that as well. So far as I can tell, we've nipped and tucked this to the point to where we are compliant on every line item, but we're here to answer any questions you have.
Okay, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion.
Do you want to, does he want to state that?
Yeah, we were just discussing, because there is a formality that if the variance was to go away, that we'd have to have plans turned in, it would have to get reviewed, and then kind of go through the process.
Correct, Chairman. So we would have to review your plans to make sure it still complies with all the other codes by your revisions to substantiate it has the 62, it didn't impact anything else on the site, that your improved landscape buffer widths, things like of that nature. We'd have to review all of that to then be able to say with certainty to this commission that it complies with it and the variance would no longer be needed. So to do that, you would actually have to obey the item. There's either that or move forward as with the plans that we have submitted today.
Let's move forward with the plans we have today.
I'll ask Vice Chair, is that?
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I think you did your due diligence since the last time we met, last time we were short by 30 spots, now you were 61, where 62 is required. I'm actually fine with that.
Okay.
So you don't have to change that. And then the only other condition I had was for the landscaping, as long as you agree with condition number 5, which is the 24-inch box trees along the front of where farm is, and then on condition number 8, we'd need to amend that to all proposed trees to be located within the landscape buffer area along the south, east, and west perimeter shall be a minimum of 36-inch box trees.
So we're talking about these corners here?
We're talking about all along the east and the west and the perimeter. I'm not going to mess with you on the front that faces farm.
Sure.
Anything is remotely
adjacent to
close to any residential community backing up to that property, I want to make sure I have that shaded protection, like
Yeah.
we discussed for many months.
Yeah,
Nothing's
so,
changed.
and we have an extra note here, we changed these to a, you can't see that, but we changed it to the 36-inch.
Okay, so basically, you'll state into the record that if you agree with condition number 5 and condition number 8 as amended, I have no problem then making a motion for approval. And I'm sure staff will clean that language up real quick for you to make that decision, okay?
Mr. Chairman, through you, number 8 should be amended to add at the end of it, all proposed trees to be located within landscape buffer areas along the south, east, and west perimeter shall be a minimum 36-inch box size.
Now, west, am I not adjacent to commercial with the daycare center? Do I need the 36-inch trees there?
It's actually a residential zoning district with a childcare use located within it. Technically, it is a residential zoning district abutting the property.
They can beat me to it. Yeah, so we good?
If I can get final action on that, I can live with that, I'll do that.
Okay, so he's agreeing to those conditions. With that said, I would like to make a motion to approve abeyance item VAR 77275.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, item number 18, SDR 77276, with all conditions as agreed upon. Motion for approval? And amended.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, both items are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you very much. Moving on to, thank you, related items 19 through 22. Abeyance VAR 77282, applicant KB Homes, owner Bus Yard Properties LLC, Invento Bus Yard LLC. For possible action, request for a variance to allow termination of a private street in a dead-end stub where cul-de-sac is required, to allow sidewalks on one side where sidewalks on both sides are required on 43-foot wide internal private streets, to allow no amenity zone on the exterior street, and to allow a connectivity ratio of 1.15 or 1.30 is required on the south side of Ann Road alignment, approximately 60 feet west of Schaumburg Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Item number 20, abeyance VAR 77283, for possible action request for a variance to allow 14-foot tall overall perimeter wall height, where 12 feet is the maximum allowed, to allow 8-foot tall retaining walls where 6 feet is the maximum allowed, and to allow 8-foot tall secondary walls where 4 feet is the maximum allowed. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance VAC 77284, for possible action and request for a petition to vacate a U.S. government patent easement. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. And finally, related item, abeyance TMP 77285, for possible action on a request for tentative map for 113-lot, single-family residential subdivision. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the city is currently working on building complete street standards throughout the city. No unique or extraordinary evidence has been presented to warrant the 2 requested variances to address deviations to complete street standards and to exceed maximum wall height allowed by Title 19. As such, staff has determined that the hardship is self-imposed, and therefore staff recommends denial of the 2 variances and tentative map and approval of the requested vacation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get your name and address to the record, please?
Good evening, Krista Bilbrey with KB Home, 5795 Badura Avenue in Las Vegas, 89118. We're scheduled to be heard before you at the last Planning Commission We obeyed that after getting staff report to work through some of staff's conditions, meet with Commissioner DeSalvo, meet with Councilwoman Fiore, and we had since submitted a revised site plan, adding additional open space, keeping a sidewalk that's a continuous walkway throughout the community, addressed our street sections so that they meet the code-approved street section. And so I'm here before you to answer any questions you may have on this site. I will say regarding the retaining walls, we still feel it's a struggle since we have about 60 feet of fall from west to east on this particular site. We are surrounded by a pit, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, just to clarify, we did receive revised plans on October 8th that did address the amenity zone along the public right-of-way on the exterior of the property, and there is a continuous sidewalk that runs through the community, however, on just one side of the sidewalk, but they still are failing to meet the connectivity ratio scores, and therefore that variance is still there, as well as with the perimeter wall heights.
Okay, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we did have an extensive meeting, a couple of them, and Mr. Lowenstein is correct. We agreed on the trees. We agreed on double sides of the park. We agreed on having a dog park. We agreed with the sidewalk on one side, but it's continuous. And we agreed with the exterior amenity zone, getting landscaping. So, I mean, we massaged it, we worked it out, and we got it to where we wanted it to be in order to get this to move forward. And if there's no other questions, I'd like to just entertain a motion.
Commissioner Rogan?
What about the dead-end streets? Was that addressed?
They were allowed to be the stub streets.
When you say allowed per code?
Well,
not per code.
it's not per code, but it was because of this double sizing of the park and adding the dog park, there was a little horse trading that went on.
Vice Chair.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion for number 19 for approval on VAR 77282.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item number 20, VAR 77283, motion for approval.
There's a motion on the floor. And Vice Chair, this is the site that's right up against the mountain.
Yep.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And VAC, item number 21, 77284, motion for approval.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And for the last one on this one is number 22, TMP 77285, motion for approval.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item 19 through 21 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days, and item 22 is final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 7 days.
Thank you. And I will say it is nice when they come in with revised plans, so staff can have a chance to actually review them, and we're not trying to do it at the podium. So I know every meeting I take, I'm going to make sure I push them right away to get those revised plans in.
We had meetings immediately.
Yeah. Item number 33, abeyance renotification, VAR 77179, applicant owner Bonanza Springs LLC, for possible action request for a variance to allow prohibited materials for an existing 12-foot tall perimeter wall where 8 feet is the maximum height allowed at 4901 East Bonanza Road, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by installing prohibited materials upon an existing wall, also causing the maximum height to be exceeded. Staff therefore recommends denial of the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening. My name is Merlin Hardy. I'm at 494 Spanish View Lane. And I don't concur, I disagree with staff, and so I have tried to work with Commissioner Schlosman. on this. I'm not sure exactly where we ended up, but I told him some of the things that were going on. I've already discussed what I've done trying to protect. It's a senior citizen community, and so I'm not going to go into that again. But I would like to show first here, if we can see this okay.
Yep.
This is what, when it was originally turned in by code enforcement, is right after they trimmed those oleanders. And so what I've done was, this is more right after they did it here and here. This was our last meeting. You can see how far the oleanders have grown up and caused a buffer for what I was told you guys didn't like the chain link and stuff. And then this is today. I took this picture today. Now I have, on the other side of the wall, put a lattice work on the chain link. And unfortunately, I have misplaced that picture. I have it in my phone. I don't know if you can see it off my phone. But I have put a lattice there. Trinity Schlotman, you came out and saw it. Maybe you can describe it for him and give him your opinion after I'm done here. I have just one more thing to show you. And this I'm showing because of the height problem. This is the corner, the southeast corner of the wall. This is my son, and if you can see a rock right here, that's what they step on to get over the wall and get into our property. And you think, okay, that's fine because of the high wall on the other side. But on the other side of that is this is the neighboring property, this isn't our property, but they would climb down onto this fence and then they would make a traffic to and from school through our property. On our property, they would jump onto this garbage container and then get down that way. And behind the garbage container, we had a homeless guy there for a little while. I just thought I'd bring that up. And then this is also their side of the property. And this is where we put the wall. What I want to emphasize right now, though, is the wall we put up, the fencing we put up is only on the east side of the property, between Kmart and us. All the rest we've left alone except a couple corners, and this you can see right here is one of those corners. This over here in the front corner where they were jumping up on the wall and getting over that way. And this one on the northeast corner, you can't see at all. This was also included on the variance. This right here is our neighbor's yard. We didn't have anything to do with the installation of this. They did that prior to us doing anything. We've also taken down all of the serpentine wire. I have that removed. And so you can see that there has been removed throughout the whole part. So the only thing we're asking for really is that east wall and the front and rear corners that come off of that, and the two corners on the west side where it comes off of that wall. And then we're also willing to put up the lattice work on the chain link part of it to obstruct the view of that. And as far as the east side, that will be covered by those oleanders within probably another 2 months. You won't even be able to see anything from the Kmart side as far as the chain link, barbed wire, or anything. But all along that Kmart side, in between those bushes, we had a homeless, not a community, but occasional homeless person making his fortress there. And they hopped right, you see my son, how small that wall is on the Kmart side. They would just hop right over and jump into our property. And that's all. I'm open to questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hardy. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to Commissioner Schlossman.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Cherry.
Thank you.
So I walked this project with Merlin, and we walked around the community. It was a great community and great little clubhouse and everything else, and so you're doing an awesome job over there. I did want to hold this last time so we could meet and look at it in the field to make sure that you understood that you could go a couple more courses higher with that block wall. And due to the Kmart is a lot higher, I just drove it again at 4:30 this afternoon. I seen your Jeep in front of the clubhouse, so.
You should have stopped in.
I would have if I had more time, but it really is, I mean, it's a low wall. It's like 4 feet in some portions, especially back towards the back. And then on your side, it's like, it's around 6 feet. And then you put the little fencing material on top, and I understand why you're doing that. If you remember, I said I had the same issues at my community, and
You did.
there's nothing I really could do about it. People have to jump in, or people jump over the fence, and it is what it is. But I do see the issue here. I don't like barbed wire, and I don't like concertina wire. So I don't think I can get behind the barbed wire and concertina wire. The chain link, I was having a little bit of heartburn over, but, you know, I think I can get behind if everybody else on the board can get behind that 2-foot strip of chain link, I think I could get behind that as well. I was going to suggest putting a few courses of masonry on top of that wall. After looking at that wall's not going to hold a couple more courses of masonry. So if we grant this, basically that 2-foot chain link that's up there, I think looks a lot better than 2-foot chain link with lattice. I don't like that lattice material that you're putting up on the side of the fence. So
Thank you.
I would just say get rid of that. The oleanders are starting to cover that fence.
The oleanders will have it covered. They're, I would
Okay.
say within the next 4 months.
Sure.
It'll all be
And-
disappeared.
But I think the front of your property looks amazing with the block wall and the wrought iron, the pickets up front. I just don't want to see any chain link going on the front of your property on Bonanza.
No. We, in the master plan of our community, what we've got there is we're putting 2-story units along the frontage of Bonanza to create a buffer for the single-story homes. And then we're going to put a wall in between each unit to create the second barrier. And I don't think anybody's going to be bothering us. And that will all be either wrought iron or concrete with wrought iron on it.
Okay. And, you know, I think if this wall ever comes down, which I think won't be before long, it'll have to be improved per current codes, and so you would probably, you could build this out of masonry going up the full 8 feet or whatever, 10 feet, whatever you need at that point. So I think this variance is for the short term. I'd like to see if we can draft, ask our planning director for help in crafting a motion or crafting a couple of conditions and see if you would agree to it.
Through you, Chairman. So from our conversation, the 2 conditions that I've crafted so far are in relation to the barbed wire and concertina wire. The first one being the request to use barbed wire or concertina wire is denied and shall be removed. The second one would be in regards to Bonanza Road, and that is the perimeter wall along Bonanza Road shall not consist of any unacceptable materials as described within Title 19.08040.
Thank you. Would you agree to those conditions?
The perimeter wall in the frontage only is what you just said.
Along Bonanza Road, yes.
Got it. We can pull that down.
Okay.
What about in lieu of the barbed wire, though, on that, just the Kmart side, we replace that with cable instead of barbed wire? It's all going to be disappearing inside of the oleanders. To everybody in the world, it'll look, you know, to the perpetrators and the people they'll see it up there and they'll think it's barbed wire when they get close to it inside the trees, but it won't hurt anybody. It'll just be cable. And
I think you could put a pretty amazing looking wrought iron fence on top of it
You're
with some...
absolutely right. I'm
with
gonna
some-
leave it to
with
your
some-
first suggestion.
With some spikes. What do you think about that?
No, I'm going to go with your first suggestion.
Okay. Perfect. If nobody else has any comments, on item number 23, advance item VAR 77179, move to approve subject to staff's conditions and the revised 2 conditions as read into the record by our Deputy Plan Director.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item
Thank you
is
for moving
final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Great, thank you. And thanks, Commissioner Schlossman, for working with him. That was very nice of you. Moving on to related items 24 through 29. Item number 24, abeyance GPA 77367, applicant Harmony Homes, Nevada, LLC, owner, United States of America. For possible action, request for a general plan amendment from PCD to M at the northeast corner of Tropical Parkway and Pooley Road, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Related item number 25, ZON 77572, for possible action request for a rezoning from U and PF to RTH. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. Related item number 26, VAR 77701, for possible action request for a variance to allow non-standard private streets where such is required, stub streets where cul-de-sac or hammerhead is required, and a connectivity ratio of 1.03 where 1.30 is required. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Related item number 27, VAR 77573, for possible action request for a variance to allow a 12-foot tall retaining wall with a 6-foot tall perimeter wall where a 4-foot tall retaining wall and 6 to 8 foot tall perimeter wall is the maximum allowed. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Item number 28, VAC 77574, for possible action request for a petition to vacate U.S. government patent easements. Ward 6, staff recommends approval. And finally, related item number 29, TMP 77575, for possible action request for a tentative map for a 336-lot, single-family attached residential subdivision, townhome, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, please note that there are revised plans dated 11/12/19 in your blue sheet of materials for this application that address minor changes to the site. The applicant is requesting approval of applications for general plan amendment, rezoning, vacation of patent easements, a number of variances, and a tentative map to allow townhouse development with 336 units. The general plan amendment and rezoning are appropriate as the proposed medium-density residential land use combined with the single-family attached zoning would provide an orderly transition from the multifamily development to the northeast and any future development to the west. The vacation is appropriate as the patent easements are not needed. Staff does not support the variance request as the resulting stub streets would not allow large vehicles such as emergency response vehicles, trash collection trucks, and moving trucks to turn around or maneuver in a safe manner without backing down a public street. In addition, the street layout is insufficient to provide the minimum level of connectivity desired for residential developments within the city. The requested retaining wall heights will result in overly tall blank walls that will negatively impact the existing apartment complex to the northeast and future development to the west. Staff recommends approval of the general plan amendment, rezoning, and vacation requests as they are appropriate, but denial of the variances and the tentative map. If approved, Public Works has condition changes to read into the record for TMP 77575, and please note that additional letters of protest and support were received after publication.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman Cherry and members of the commission. My name is Larry Bitton with Horrocks Engineers at 1401 North Green Valley Parkway, representing the developer and soon-to-be owner, Harmony Homes. And first off, I want to express appreciation to the planning staff, the city staff who we worked with to come up with the plan and to help resolve some of the issues, especially in regards to a couple of the variances which were applied for. We met with staff early on to make sure that we complied with the emergency vehicle access and turning radiuses in the site. We have a traffic study that has been submitted and approved by Public Works. And we're excited about the project. We think it's great, a great development and a great location, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. We understand staff's conditions of approval, and we respectfully request your approval, and we concur with those conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Go to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple questions on, and this is for fire. For item number 26, what's your consensus on the stub streets? You guys foresee any problems with that?
Through the chair, actually, that was one of the conversations that occurred today with Assistant Fire Protection Engineer Halverson about the length of the substreets and the access and the turning radius. It was all resolved today. The code allows the stub suites not to exceed 150 feet, and I think they worked those details, I believe they worked those details out this morning, sir. No issues with it as it stands.
Thank you very much. The only other question I had, I get the elevation difference due to the fact for the walls is why we were asking for what we're asking for. I understand that, and that was the first thing in our meeting was why request that. So, and I had a feeling it was elevation, and that's what it came down to. My only other question is, on a vacation, I know Pooley Road goes away and that turns into a park, but there was a question that was brought up during, and this might be for Mr. Lowenstein, there was a question that was brought up during the meeting as far as if it was a 10-foot easement, a 40-foot easement, or is it a 50-foot easement? So maybe if I could just get some clarification on what that number is and how we got to it.
Well, on the future vacation of Pooley Road, we'll have to have a Master Streets and Highways amendment, and this is also being coordinated with the 270 acres to the north of this project and to the slightly to the west of this project. So that coordination resulted in, I believe, the easement being placed. And Roger, I'm not looking at the staff report. Pooley Road's either an 80 or 100. It's an 80 on the Master Streets and Highways.
For the record, Roger Bailey with Public Works. I believe it's an 80, but I don't know for sure at the moment.
One second.
If I can comment, it's an 80-foot right-of-way, 40 feet on our side and 40 feet to the west, plus an additional 10-foot of right-of-way for roadway and drainage to make it a total of 50 feet on our side of the site that will be dedicated.
Thank you. And then as far as for Roger with Public Works, do you have any conditions or concerns on your end that needs to be addressed?
Mr. Chairman, through you, the Department of Public Works would like to revise conditions number 9 and 10. For number 9, we would request that it be changed to dedicate 40 feet of right-of-way adjacent to the site for Pooley Road and 40 feet for Tropical Parkway, including a taper, and grant the required multi-use non-equestrian easement adjacent to Tropical Parkway on the final map for this site. Additionally, grant a 10-foot wide roadway, sewer, and drainage easement along the east side of the 40-foot Pooley Road dedication. For condition number 10, we request that it be changed to construct half-street improvements on Centennial Parkway and Tropical Parkway, including the required multi-use non-equestrian trail on Tropical Parkway, matching the improved taper to the west edge of this site at a location acceptable to the city traffic engineer, including appropriate overpaving and transition paving. In lieu of half-street improvements on Pooley Road, a linear park shall be constructed in the Pooley Road right-of-way to design agreed upon by the developer in the city of Las Vegas.
And you agree to that, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Vice Chair, if you're going to make a motion, I will say I get a little heartburn when Mr. Klein tells me something, I believe it, but it's the day of that we're getting plans, and I'm going to go along with it. But I hope, Larry, in the future with other clients that you can, if there's going to be changes or last-minute approvals, that you have enough time to get a plan in so it can go to staff, it can come to us, so we don't even, with the hammerhead streets, like, but he's saying, and I believe him.
That's
but
right.
So I guess maybe, is there something that would come forward between now and City Council that goes on the record to kind of help it along? Is that the process?
Well, we have submitted an updated tentative map, but for the record, those changes were very minor. So nothing that would be obvious or that changed the character of the development. It was just adding information to clarify. For example, we didn't lengthen the stub streets. We just added additional dimensional information for the fire department so they can tell,
Okay.
yes, it does comply.
Okay, and again, when Mr. Klein says, "I believe it," I just, again, it goes back to my comment about getting plans and designing here.
Understood.
And, so, please,
podium.
at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tried to avoid that, but
Yeah, I understand.
it
Yep.
gets a little lengthy, but we did rush and we did cram immediately after the last meeting to sit down and make sure that we had it addressed prior
And you're
to.
always a great steward of the ward, I know, not questioning that.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman and Vice Chairman, just for a point of clarification, so I'm checking the master streets and highways. North of Centennial Parkway, it is an 80-foot, and south of Centennial Parkway, it's showing as a 100-foot right-of-way. So, Roger, I don't know if you need to adjust 40 to 50, or you're good with your 40, and since it's going to be vacated anyway, I don't know if it's an issue.
Okay, I guess if there's no other comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve, where am I at here? Item number 24, GPA 77367.
There's a motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you. And item number 25, motion for approval, ZON 77572.
There's a motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And item number 26, VAR 77701, motion for approval.
The motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And item number 27, VAR 77573, motion for approval.
So motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Motion to approve item number VAC, number 28, VAC 77574.
So motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And motion to approve item number 29, TMP 77575, with all conditions. That's number 9 and 10,
As amended.
as amended.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Larry.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
those items will move forward to City Council on December 18th, 2019.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 30 and 31. Item 30, VAR 77522, applicant owner Masonic Memorial Temple Lodge for possible action request for variance to allow no sidewalk improvements along a portion of Mesquite Avenue where such are required. At 2200 West Mesquite Avenue, Ward 5, staff recommends denial. And related item 31, SDR 77523, for possible action on a request to amend major amendment to a previously approved rezoning to add an existing soccer field to a fraternal organization development, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is located in the CV zoning district, which allows any public or quasi-public use operated or controlled by any recognized religious, fraternal, veteran, civic, or service organization. The submitted justification letter, date stamped October 1st, 2019, indicates the soccer facility will be used for the programming needs and activities of the Masonic Temple members and its affiliates. A condition of approval has been added to prohibit the commercial operation of the field. However, when a site is improved in the city of Las Vegas, it is customary to require the installation of all incomplete improvements surrounding the site so that they match the existing surrounding area. Currently, sidewalk improvements have not been installed adjacent to this portion of the site along Mesquite Avenue. Staff supports current complete streets development standards, therefore staff does not support the request for a variance to defer sidewalk improvements or the associated site development plan review for the proposed soccer field and recommends denial of both applications. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I enter your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Ricky Barlow, LV Access, 2222 West Bonanza Road. Standing before you here today, Commissioners, on a development that I think will really enhance the surrounding area as well as the neighborhood in which the proposed practice soccer facility will be placed. But if you will allow me, Mr. Chair, to digress for a moment to congratulate Mr. Klein on his retirement. I've had an opportunity to work with Mr. Klein for many years, and you have been nothing but professional. And I want to say congratulations to you, and you fought a good fight, man. And we all are really proud of you in the work in your career, your professional career here at the City of Las Vegas, and touching many lives out in the community. So thanks for being a great friend, man, and congratulations to you. Job well done. Members of the commission, today, if we'll have an opportunity to go to the overhead, if you will, I'll try and have this here. Today, before you, we have two items, the site development plan review on the subject property, which is 7.8 acres on the southeast portion of this parcel, as well as a variance in regards to the sidewalks, in which I'll get to momentarily. Just to give you an aerial of the site, as you've seen, just to the west of this property is Rancho Road, and Mesquite is on the southern portion of this property. This is I'm just going to walk you through a number of aerials real briefly. Another aerial looking from the south, looking north, and so what you have out here is US 95 on-ramp, and Rancho will be to the west. Getting a closer, tighter look, the site in question is, the 7.8 acres is right here on the eastern portion of the Masonic Memorial property, and the landscaping buffer, which is on the southeastern portion, as well as the buffer of landscaping that's currently all in place today, as well as a cavity here, which is approximately 10 to 15 feet from the back portion of each one of these individual single-family homes on the east side of the property as well. And all this will come into play in just a moment as I walk you through this and explain what we're looking to do. Another aerial of the entire site. This is looking west from the east, and so you have all of the residential properties here on the east with the cavity of the, I believe it's a storm drain. You have the additional buffer, and then we'll have the soccer facility portion of the site here. And this is just a direct angle coming from the satellite. This is a street view. This is once again looking west from the east. And as you can see, some of the bollards here to basically choke the traffic from speeding motorists coming down Mesquite. And this is looking east from the west. So the Masonic Memorial Temple will be at our back at this point. And this is a direct shot looking back into the property. Let me go back. Okay. There were two neighborhood meetings conducted. The first thing that I did was run this item to the council office. And I did that I met with the council office, Commissioner Creer's office, on August 28th, approximately 12:30 p.m. In August. And he requested that I reach out to the neighbors of Rancho Manor to make sure that all of their concerns were addressed. And I did that. On September 16th, at 6 p.m., a neighborhood meeting was held at the Masonic Memorial Temple. There was approximately 2 people that showed to that meeting, and they were in support, and we're very happy and pleased to see that something was actually going to assist in beautifying their neighborhood. And then another meeting took place, which I did not participate. However, on November 4th, just last week, Rancho Manor, as well as the council office, had another meeting, and approximately 10 people showed, and there were some concerns and questions that came from this meeting as well. One of the questions that I understand was, is this a community park? And the question is, no, it's not a community park. However, the Masonic Memorial Temple is open for residents of Rancho Manor to partake at this facility. The reason it's not a community park is because the Masonic Memorial Temple will basically be faced with a lot of homelessness and other issues that will bring negativity into this area. We've just cleared, as of recently, 12 homeless encampments that was at the back portion right up against the freeway of this lot. We just recently cleared them out. And so the last thing that we want is to create an undue hardship, bringing negative elements into the community. And so therefore, we will be placing a decorative wrought iron fence around this parcel, around the practice soccer facility. But I'll be remiss if I didn't share this with you. The soccer facility is a half of a soccer field. It's not a full-size soccer field. It's specifically designed for 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds to basically practice soccer. They play at Betty Wilson and Kellogg's there. And so the members of the lodge have family members and friends that participate in a variety of soccer leagues, and one of these soccer teams will be practicing on this facility as well, but also giving the Masonic Memorial Temple an opportunity to schedule this area for not only themselves, but their affiliates, for barbecues or family reunions. If in fact residents from the community would like to come and schedule it, they're open to that, and basically giving them an opportunity to place their date and time on the calendar, whereas the Masonic Memorial Temple and their affiliates will have an opportunity to program it accordingly and watch over it to make sure that this site remains in good standing, specifically in this community. So will residents have access to this facility? The question is yes. The Rancho Manor neighborhood residents, okay? Will the soccer field expand? No, we have no interest in expanding the half soccer field. This is temporary. What we're looking to do is actually come back at a later date with a development, speaking with the council office as well as the residents in regards to what their plans are to develop this site fully. And that's why we're requesting a variance for no sidewalks at this time. Once we bring in the development with the SDR, the Site Development Plan Review, we'll be happy to basically incorporate the enclosure of the sidewalks at that time. Will lights shine in my yard was a question that came up. Once we get to the final slide here, you'll see that the lights will not shine in any of the neighbors' yards because they'll specifically be directed onto the practice soccer facility. And the lights will not be on no later than 9 p.m. The earliest the lights will come on is basically at dusk. And once again, we're talking about 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds practicing at this facility. Will the field generate revenue? If in fact, if given the opportunity for the Masonic Memorial Temple to lease out this facility, it will basically be under the auspices of how in fact they operate their facility today. As I shared with someone, I've had a number of activities at the Masonic Memorial catering facility where I rented it out in the past, and I'm pretty sure they'll be open to the opportunity as well if in fact someone wanted to rent this out for a private activity, such as one of the neighbors in Rancho Manor who questioned whether or not they would be able to rent it out for their family reunion to keep their family inside of the neighborhood. And that's something that the Masonic Memorial Temple and its members are open to discuss as well. Can the field be moved further from the homes on the east property line? The answer to that question is no. We believe that where it's currently existing is the best position for the practice facility because it aligns directly with the Field of Dreams, which is directly across the street from where this currently exists today. And as you can see, going back to the overhead, we have ample parking. So there's no question in regards to a parking variance that we have more than enough parking for this site. In addition to that, there's only a small number of young people that will be out here at any given time with their parents. And so parking on the east portion is ample enough parking spaces for the young people and their parents to come and park. The landscape buffer to the southern portion of the property, as well as the landscape buffer to the eastern portion, I believe is wide enough to buffer and protect the homes that are on the east side of this property as well. And so at this time, I would like to answer any questions that you all may have at this time, and feel free to address those concerns. Mr. Chair, thank you.
This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? If I could just have you step aside, please come up. We have 3 microphones. I'll need your name and address for the record, if you're for or against, and why.
My name is Joseph Fragiadakis, 27 Jade Circle, 89106. I'm a Rancho Manor resident.
Joseph, can you spell your last name for me, please?
Sure, Fragiadakis.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pretty much I'm definitely opposed to the way things have been set up or portrayed. I did receive a flyer, I think it was either on my door, I don't think it was in the postage mail, but for September 16th, come join us to check out the grand opening of this soccer practice facility. So in my eyes, it was not an informational meeting to, this is what we're thinking of doing. It was in August and in early September that all of a sudden this turf was laying out, not knowing what was going on. So in my eyes, the September 16th date was more of it's an unveiling of it, not come check it out. And then we did meet last week on the 5th, a week ago Tuesday, for just some more information to try to figure out what's going on with that. So again, it's more the way things kind of unveiled themselves was not ideal. Also, there's no public park in our community, and my in-laws who live next door to me have been here since 77 or 76, and when the Masonic Temple was being built, I believe in 1972 or 74, the community area was all residential, and there was an agreement upon Rancho Manor that they would allow a variance for this Masonic Temple to go up, provided they would build a park for the community. Obviously, there's no park, and we're talking 40 years now almost. So the trust, or however you want to look at it, taking the word of what is said from the Masonic Temple and such, it's kind of burned a lot of people in Rancho Manor. So not knowing what, this kind of opens up a can of what ifs. I know there's a lot of questions that were posted on the flyer and such, but it's still a lot of unknowns. And does it create future problems is the question. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Thanks. Name and address, please, for the record.
Bill Spizzoletti, 45 Shadow Lane, 89106, Rancho Manor resident. Mr. Barlow showed some pictures of the site. What he didn't show is what exists today. It's not empty. There is a field there. And so it's like, how did that happen without being reviewed and approved? Now, I sent Commissioner Williams an email Friday. And so I'd just like to read my comments to him, okay? How was the Masonic Memorial Temple Lodge soccer field installed without neighborhood knowledge and input? It was put in place without neighborhood knowledge and input, regardless of what was stated in an information meeting that occurred after the initial construction was already started. The lodge should not be permitted to include a recreational facility that impacts the neighborhood without proper vetting. I do not trust them to do it again with other open property that they have. What stops them from doing something to build another field in violation of planning codes? They apparently plan to install permanent lighting towers for nighttime soccer games and practice. These lights will be very intrusive on the homes bordering the field. Some of these neighbors have already complained about the noise from existing generators. How can they do this without approvals? Is the soccer field a commercial enterprise that again has not been vetted with the city? Is this a private facility or is it a facility open to Rancho Manor residents? Also, there should not be a variance on the sidewalk. People walk that section through stone and rocks, and there should be a sidewalk. If you look at the traffic snake the chicane there, the cars go very close to the curb. So you're walking along that set of rocks without having any kind of buffer, if you will, when cars go through there. So the sidewalk should definitely be in place. I think that's it.
Thanks for coming out and sharing your comments. Anyone else like to be heard?
Hi there, Tara Anderson. I reside at 2104 Frontier Avenue. I'm about 50 yards from this site as a crow flies, and I think I'm technically the neighborhood association president. There's a couple of challenges. First and foremost, I'd like everyone to know that our intent as a neighborhood is not to be obstinate to the evolution of the Masonic Temple's site. There's a couple of concerns. I've been in the neighborhood for 5 years. There's these unfulfilled commitments that were made both for the development of the Masonic Temple as well as the billboard that's on site, as Mr. Spizzalesi had mentioned, in exchange for a community park. In the absence of that there's not a really great rapport, which we would like to have better. I think at this time to approve this, it's premature because there have not been discussions with the neighborhood and Masonic Temple to talk about what might that collaborative use be. Let's also be very clear that this is a commercial enterprise. This Masonic Temple is leasing out that space for $20,000 annually for the term of 3 years to a third-party soccer enterprise. I don't actually have, in and of itself, an objection, but let's just make sure that we're evaluating this clearly, that this is not a civic use, but rather a commercial one. I don't think that it alone would state that we don't want them there, but to have a more exhaustive conversation and collaborative one with the residents about what does access look like? How would we, if we wanted to use the facility? I appreciate the fact that they intend a wrought iron fence in the park. We are all intimately aware that there's a homeless challenge. So we're not in disagreement with that, but in its current form of how this has been presented, I think there's a gravely missed opportunity both to get the park right, to forge better relationships between the neighborhood and the Masonic Temple, which the history predates me in the neighborhood, and I think we can do better. But the sidewalk piece of it, in and of itself, every other commercial enterprise that is developing in downtown, there's an expectation of off-site improvements. So I'm not understanding why we wouldn't hold the same standard as we're trying to elevate our downtown neighborhoods with the expectation of proper off-site improvements. So to me, the sidewalk in and of itself is something that's a very appropriate expectation if they're going to continue developing that site for commercial use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. See one more person. If I can get your name and address for the record.
My name's Steve Campbell. I live at 209 Shadow Lane, which is part of Rancho Manor. Like some of my neighbors have already expressed the way this was done, I didn't get a flyer. If there was one put on my door, the wind blew it away. That's not a proper way. Nobody reached out to our neighborhood association. He has the number. He's used it before. So the way this was done, totally against it. Not, as she explained, not against the idea of it, but at this point, addressing lighting issues firmly, how late it can go. I'm sorry, the way it was done, I don't trust the Masonic that they say it goes till 9. You approve that? Who say they turn it and go to 10, 11, 12? So at this point, and the sidewalk, that's the only section that isn't sidewalked. And it is that constriction right there. And for them to ask for that variance shows the disdain for my neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you for coming out. Anyone else like to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll go back to the applicant for a rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, let me be clear that The conversation between Rancho Manor and the Masonic Temple has, to my understanding, predates even myself. And have gone back and forth with the Masonic Temple for many, many years in regards to their ability to try and correct and create a nexus with the neighbors, and vice versa. You have a lot of neighbors that are in support of this item, and you have some neighbors that oppose it as well, and I get that. But when you look at the overall element of what we created across the street, and I was a part of all the conversations with the park that we worked very diligently on in regards to those young people with special needs at this park right here. And the same requirements, if you look back in the documentation, the same thing that they asked for as far as all of the variances, the setbacks, if you look here, this setback is much closer than what we currently have on this site here. And that's why I wanted to point that out to you early on in the overhead in regards to the distance between the properties here, as well as the distance between the property that you have across the street. It's much closer. You're looking at approximately 15 feet, approximately, and you're looking at over 80 to approximately 80 feet on this site here. As far as the sidewalk, we don't oppose the sidewalk. We want to build a sidewalk. All we're asking is for it to come with an erection of a building. To put in a sidewalk right now, to install a sidewalk right now, the cost is to a point to where the sidewalk will cost more than what we're actually paying to lay artificial turf, and just basically bring in an element that will enhance and give the community, as well as the Rancho Manor, an opportunity to partake, as well as the Masonic Memorial Temple and its members to basically have access to an open space. So that's, I believe, that's where we are right now, trying to identify how, in fact, we can do that. And the Masonic Memorial Temple is committed to keeping their doors open and keeping the conversations flowing in relation to how we allow access for this space. And so I believe it's a great opportunity for the neighbors, and I believe that we have an opportunity to continue to grow together as neighbors. And I'm not foreign to these conversations or the neighborhood meetings, because I've had multiple neighborhood meetings as it relates to many issues surrounding this particular area. And so I request that we move forward with the item before you with the SDR as well as the variance. And as long as I'm involved with this, I'll continue to work with the neighbors moving forward as it relates to making sure that they're engaged every step of the way. But understanding also that there will always be, unfortunately, some for and some against, as you all very well know, as commissioners on many items that come before you. So I'm open to any questions or comments that you all may have at this time.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion. I'll quickly say before I go to Commissioner Williams that, the only time I recall ever voting on not having a sidewalk is in a rural area. And then even in that situation is looking at where are the sidewalks adjacent to it. Well, this one for me, it's in a neighborhood. I see sidewalk that terminates on both ends of the property line, and I see sidewalk, full sidewalk across the street at the church. I believe it's directly across the street. So I've never supported that in the past, and that I recall, only again in rural areas where we've had a lot of neighbors come out and express that that's what they wanted, even though that's not how I actually wanted to vote. But they've asked for no streetlights, they've asked for no sidewalks, they've asked for equestrian trails, and that's the only time I've ever felt comfortable voting in that direction. So I'll just leave it at that before I go to you, Commissioner Williams.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Barlow, I have to tell you, listening to some of the resident concerns, one of my first, and again, I agree with the chairman here, the sidewalks is a tough one for us to get past when you really look at adjacent sidewalks, sidewalk across the street. But I think the bigger challenge here, as Ms. Anderson alluded to, in the spirit of collaboration and really wanting to make sure we've got enough and enough residents there to really give their opinions and ask questions. I just don't think that two or three people rendering their decision is a good enough showing. And if we've got residents here that for whatever reason didn't get notices or weren't there, I think that there needs to, in the spirit of collaboration, you need to go back and probably talk with your client and understand what the real needs and ask and requirements are of the neighbors. I am ready to make a recommendation on both items, but I would like to say on the second item, SDR 77523, I'd be willing to hold this item in abeyance to give Mr. Barlow an opportunity to go back and really speak with the residents and talk through any challenges, because I mean the reality is the temple's there, the residents are there, and if they really want to ask questions and have an opportunity to understand future development opportunities and what's coming, I think it's only right that they're given that opportunity.
Can I go to Commissioner Rogan quickly?
Sure thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams and Chair Cherry. I would support that abeyance request. I just have some comments, Mr. Barlow.
Yes.
Considering I guess the lack of cordial relationships that you have, or the Masonic Temple has with the neighborhood, perhaps some of the issues that have been brought up tonight can be addressed. In particular, I think perhaps you can work with planning staff to look back and see what actually was promised. Was anything promised back when this Masonic Temple was approved on this particular location to the neighborhood? Was there a park promised or not? So that can be clarified. I mean, that can be the basis of a renewed relationship that you have. And I'd certainly be curious to make sure that we're fulfilling any promises that were made back in 1970 or 1980 when that Masonic Temple was developed. I also have a question for you, which is, are you leasing out the soccer field at $20,000 to this organization? Are you renting it out, or is this for civic-minded purposes?
No, this is all Masonic Temple in regards to them and their affiliates. Now, this $20,000, I'm not aware of anything as it relates to any leasing of this facility.
Okay.
This is specifically for the Masonic Memorial Temple and its affiliates, sir. And let me back up and just address something that you mentioned before.
Sure.
I did look in the backup as it relates to promises, and there was nothing that I can find in the history of the temple and what the city has online in relation to any conversations or promises. So this has been a passed on statement for a very long time, for over 20 years from what I understand. But there's nothing that I've been able to identify as it relates to a promise that was made as it relates to building a park for the residents.
And in response, that's the first thing that I looked for in the backup was that would have been included, and it wasn't there. So just for purposes of reestablishing that relationship, though, if there's this belief that there was an unfulfilled promise, laying that to rest might be a good thing for you to do, and maybe staff can work with you or work with the neighborhood to show there was never any promise made. I also have another question, is why was this built before it was approved? I mean, one of the things that I look at is our rules and whether you're being a good neighbor, and in addition to it being built before it was even approved was numerous code violations, code enforcement that most likely have been brought by the neighbors over the past 15 or 16 years.
Yeah, very good question, and I'll be happy to answer that. A couple members of the Masonic Memorial Temple came to the city of Las Vegas, to the building department, and asked if they could put down turf. And someone at the city said, yes, you can put down turf, it's not a problem. But some of the members took it upon themselves to say, okay, we're gonna do this, but you know what, let's just create a nice warm ambiance on this site. And so they said, well, let's put up some fencing. And then an opportunity came to whereas they said, well, we can actually let some of our kids who are in our programs utilize it as well. And so they start talking about lights and different things like that. And then, to my understanding, the city came out and red tagged what they were doing. They thought they were doing something good, but turned out to be something in violation of the city of Las Vegas. And so that's where I stepped in to basically stop the process, to basically assist with bringing it through the appropriate channels through the planning process so that we can get everything in alignment. And so that's what happened. They basically got ahead of their skis, if you will.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Before I go back to Commissioner Williams, I would agree with all the comments I've heard, and I will say, I mean, I love a soccer field. I've played in many leagues. I think they promote positive things. I will say, if it is a commercial use, I'd have heartburn, because I know what the leagues and teams I've played on, I mean, we'd go all night, and we would be loud, and we'd make noise, and if there was a neighbor next door neighborhood, they'd know we're there, you know? So I guess just working through some of those questions, I see in the backup it looks like a generator for lights that's there. Is the intention to put permanent lighting?
Yes, the intention is to put permanent lighting, and we have that also through the process as well.
Okay, so,
Yes.
you know, between times and where it's shining, obviously that would be a concern whenever this comes back, but,
Well, I can share this with you, Chairman Cherry, is that the lighting, according to the engineers, the way in which we have them, is specifically directed onto the field, nowhere in alignment with any of the shadows that currently exists here. So the lights will only be shining specifically targeting, facing west. And keep in mind also that we're talking about 6, 7, 8-year-olds, no adults, no teenagers. This is a half soccer field for young people.
no, I understand. I mean,
Right.
I played on many half fields, I just didn't have to run as far,
Correct.
which was nice.
Right.
Again, my concerns are, is it a commercial use or not? And then, you know, I see
To my knowledge, no, it's not a commercial use.
Okay, and I think whenever this gets a vote, I'd like to see that's specifically stated and from us as a condition.
And you can spell that out in the condition if you like as well.
And then on this landscape buffer, the existing fence that's there right now just turns and goes the perimeter of the field. It doesn't carry through to that channel, does it?
You're talking here?
Yeah.
No, this will actually be 360.
Right, but I guess in between the homes or the property line,
Here?
can someone just walk from the street to the landscape buffer all the way back down that area?
Can someone walk through here?
Yeah.
They can walk through there today, yes.
And that's part of the Masonic Temple's property line?
Yes, their property line is actually this, would you see this, this concrete barrier here?
Okay, because it just, again, you're creating an area where you're just pushing things to me farther to, I believe that's the east.
Yes, that will be to the east.
So which would be another concern as well. But I'm just going to leave it with that and go back to Commissioner Williams on how he'd like to proceed.
Yeah, so I think there's plenty of concerns here that certainly need to be worked out. And again, as stated, we're going to really want to see a full residents meeting. And I would also recommend that you bring, you know, real drawings that show the lights and the staging and the fence and everything, and just really be able to walk everyone through that, and then we'll understand what that looks like.
Okay.
But at this time, I'm ready to make a motion for item VAR 77522. I'd like to make a motion for denial.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your
Commissioner?
votes.
Yes, sir.
If I may? If I may suggest that we,
So, Mr.
in exchange for your motion for denial, I'm asking if you will allow it to be held in abeyance so that we'll have an opportunity to meet with the residents in the event that something positive comes out of the meeting with the residents in relation to the variance, this won't be affected.
Well, the motion is for the sidewalk. The denial, the motion to deny is, we're not going to grant a variance to not install the sidewalk. You need to install the sidewalks.
Commissioner, I think,
Or we have to hold the,
well, it might be a preference, because this does go to city council, so, you know, for me, I know how I stand on sidewalks, but it might be best if they get them both at the same time. We don't split them up. I think that might
Thank
work.
you.
If you're okay with that.
no, I'm okay with that. So correction, I'd like to make a motion to hold items VAR 77522 and items SDR 77523 in abeyance. And we could do that for, how long are we thinking? 30 days?
It has to be 30 days, so yeah.
Okay.
I think it's 12/10 is the
Okay,
date.
so the 12/10 meeting.
Yeah.
Is that enough time to get a neighborhood meeting?
Is that enough time, Mrs. Barlow, get a neighborhood meeting together?
I'll be happy to do it again. Just keep in mind that we mailed out close to 1,500 mailers, as well as the neighbors held a meeting last week, and 2 people showed to the first meeting, 10 people showed to the second meeting. We'll be happy to do it again. I just don't want to be dinged for having a meeting with just those neighbors that are in opposition, because there's so many more neighbors that I do know that are in support of it, that are not here.
Yeah, in all fairness, we didn't have any cards or anything that says support, just denial, you know, so,
So, Mr. Chairman, on the neighborhood meetings, as it's not a required, but it's being required by Planning Commission.
And just as it was requested by Commissioner Creer as well, that's why we had the meeting
I appreciate
the first
it.
time, because
But there's new people out
the
here that-
councilman asked that we meet with him. We were happy to do that.
I just want to clarify that the city offers 2 services. Either we provide labels for everybody that would be in the notification radius in 1,000 foot, as we do for the public notification for the items that are agendized, or for $500, we actually print the postcards and mail them for the applicants for the neighborhood meeting, once we get the date and time of where it's going to be held. So there's those 2 services that the city can do, or the applicant can take it upon themselves to do the mailing. In this particular case, as if it's being requested by the Planning Commission, I would request that an affidavit of mailing be submitted to the city after that. But it is kind of up to them which service they want to do, because it does have a monetary impact.
And if I may jump in there as well, and keep this in mind that we're talking 1,000 feet. You have the mailers in which we actually went beyond the 1,000 feet. So that means you're only going to capture so many people within that 1,000-foot radius as well. So it's not going to be into the thousands, it's actually going to be into the hundreds. So just make sure that that's clear as well for the record.
True, the Planning Commission, if you want to set a bigger radius, or you can say you want Rancho Manor and, excuse me, is it Twin Lakes Association or something like that, those 2 associations to be noticed, then we can make a custom extraction list for that. But that is then at your discretion.
Right, that's what we did the first time.
I would actually recommend you use the city service, talk to your client. You guys use the city service.
We don't have a problem doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just less labor on our part, but I
Right.
just want to let you know that the city's distance separation, I mean, it's distance separation, 1,000-foot distance separation would only capture, less than, a few hundred.
So our notification radius exceeds state statute. State statute 750 feet from the property, edge of the property line, and radius around. We do 1,000 foot, and we capture all of that, and then we also do neighborhood associations within a half mile on our public notification. So, but the neighborhood association is just one card to whoever's registered in our voluntary list for the neighborhood association contact, not everybody in the association. So it is every property owner within that radius, as based on the assessor's information for where the mailing should go, and then the neighborhood association points of contact.
Yeah, I think another good place to start are some of the people that came up to speak, have said that they've talked to other neighbors that are opposed or have concern or want to sit down and have conversation. I mean, that could turn into a nice, robust discussion to get this thing where it needs to be, I mean, in all fairness.
I agree with that, Mr. Chair. I think, Mr. Barlow, you've got plenty of opportunity to circle back and engage the residents and really help them understand, and help us understand, really, what is the final scope of this entire project, so we're in a better position to be able to make a decision or a recommendation going forward. And we certainly need more input from the residents in the area.
Right. Well, I'll tell you the final scope from the client standpoint is giving young people, ages 6 to 9, an opportunity to play out on a practice soccer facility to enjoy the outdoors. So I'll be happy to move forward and work with the City of Las Vegas Planning Department to create another opportunity for the residents and the client to get together to have another discussion. Thank you.
And I will add, there is a condition in the backup that says it can't be a commercial use, which helps, quell concern from my standpoint at least, that that's not there.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. Well, if it states that it can't be a commercial use, then how do they get away with being able to lease it to a third party?
Don't have any evidence of it leasing through a third party.
Well, it was mentioned here earlier, and I'm just curious if Mr. Barlow, I think, stated that it was a lease, but he just wasn't sure about the denomination of how much that lease cost.
No, that's not true. That's not what I said.
Chair and Vice Chair, it may be essential that since it's been obeyed or recommending for obey, that we kind of maybe hold these questions until such time as we actually hear the full application.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, motion on the floor, please cast your votes. It's for abeyance for 30 days. Please post. And that motion carries.
So, Mr. Chairman, the goal is to host a neighborhood meeting prior to coming back on December 10th.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And we're hoping that we get some of these concerns addressed. Did we need a motion on item 31? Oh, we did both. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Barlow, it would be a good time, if you have time, to maybe exchange information with some of the people to get, and I'm sure you know some of them too, so.
Yes, I pretty much know all of them.
All right, great.
Yes, I was just about to do that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
all. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item number 32, VAR 77535. Applicant owner Richard Craven for possible action on request for a variance to allow a proposed 18-foot tall accessory structure where 14 feet is allowed at 6433 West End Road, Ward 4. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
This is Sophia Prince with the Department of Planning. Mr. Chairman, according to the submitted justification letter, the applicant is proposing a Class 2 accessory structure in the rear yard, but is unable to move the structure due to an existing leach field. The structure fails to meet maximum height standards while within 10 feet of the rear property line. Earlier coordination between the leach field or proposing a shorter structure would have allowed conformance to Title 19 requirements, and therefore staff recommends denial of this variance.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name, address for the record, please?
Richard Craven, 6433 West Ann Road, Las Vegas 89130. This is actually more nerve-wracking than my military retirement. This is something that I've been trying to piece together for a while because I have some issues with my Ann Road is my major road in front of me. I have a lot of people coming up into my front yard, checking my doors on my vehicles and stuff. So I have some old cars that I do, and I do some car shows that benefit the community. That's neither here and there, but when I have my garage open, I'm feeling like I'm subject to somebody trying to prowl in there. Kind of feel like someone can easily get into my stuff. So we propose to doing a building in the back where I actually can house these things and work on them more openly with my kids. So the proposal was trying to put a metal garage back there due to that I'm zoned for horse community and have a little property that can actually utilize that. So we try to do our homework, and I'm really good with my neighbors, trying to get their input on this, from the size to the color to the layout. That way I'm more concerned about my rear neighbors to make sure that I'm not inconveniencing them. So I've turned the building sideways so that way they don't see the peak. Even though it's not a high peak, I try to minimize that impact to them. So I've tried to do everything I possibly can to make sure that as neighbors, we get along and that everything, so they can see their views and everything else, which we all bought as well. So I've considered everything I can possibly consider when it comes to my neighbors and everything else. So I'm asking for approval. This is something I've been really wanting to put together and get this. Is, like I said, this is something this today has been looking forward to see where I can go with this. So I'm not trying to hurt anybody, trying to do anything. I'm just trying to do, hey, this is what I'm looking forward to. And originally, like Sophia, she's been really helpful about trying to get this together and trying to get everything together. Because I'm an Air Force vet, trying to put all this stuff together, plans and everything else has been kind of like, okay, what are you asking for? You know, I think it's as simple as this. And I would tell you that this is not what you want to hear, but my neighbors are like, just build it. And I'm like, want to do the right thing. So the costs associated doing the right thing between the variances, the engineering drawings, all the other things have been costing me a lot. So I'm trying to do it the right way. So that's why I come to you today to ask for this variance so I can, protect my leach field, which I'm on property, I have a well and I do have a leach field. So I'm more concerned about the water runoff, trying to get to there if I have the 10 feet that I originally asked for to be able to go up to 35 based on the table. So I want to go back to the 5 feet from the rear property. And I have made some diversions to kind of clarify some of that run water and stuff. So I've done as much homework as I can to minimize this. So I'm asking for approval if it makes sense.
Well, thank you for not building it and then coming. Appreciate that. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to Commissioner Toussaint.
Hello, Mr. Craven. Thank you for coming. I did go out and I did look at your property, and I've noticed that your neighbors are all in support of this.
Thank you.
And my understanding is the reason why you have to put, or you want to put the structure where it is because of this leach field and your septic tank. You can't move it closer in. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that septic tank and leach field has been there for?
Since the house was built in 82, 83, yes.
Since the house was built. And you said that the structure will be painted the same colors as your home, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The company that we're getting the building from have like 10 different color codes. So we're getting as close as we can to the darkness and everything else. I've even asked my neighbor behind me that, hey, I'll put white back there. We'll paint unicorns if we have to, if it helps them out, because this is the relationship I have with my neighbors, is to be considerate to everything we have. I mean, we have over-the-wall discussions on everything's going around the neighborhood between, I hate to say it, Highway and that happens in front of me and whose wall got hit today. So I've tried to make everything consideration. And I know that this year or next year, I'm considering on repainting my house. And so if there's a odd, like shades is off, I'm going to repaint the house as close as to that as possible. That way it all blends in.
Well, thank you. Anybody else have anything to say?
No.
You know, variances are really, really tricky things, and, you know, sometimes it's very difficult, I think, for us up here to agree to a variance, because once we allow a variance for you, then someone else might come here and ask for the same thing. But I did go out and I did look at the property, and your neighbors are in support of this, so I will make a motion to approve VAR 77535.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes.
Good luck.
Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Commission.
Thanks for doing your homework on everything.
Mr. Chairman, that is final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 33 and 34. I will be abstaining from these items. My company has a financial interest with the parent company. Thank you.
Okay, related items number 33 and 34. 33 SUP 77538, applicant owner T. Barrero II LLC for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 8,000 square foot tavern limited establishment use with 2,063 square foot outdoor seating area at 517 Fremont Street. Staff recommends approval. And item number 34, SDR 77539, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review to add 4,000 square foot of floor area to an existing 4,000 square foot commercial space with 2,063 square foot of outdoor seating area. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the subject site previously hosted 2 independent tavern limited establishments. The applicant has now proposed an expansion onto the roof, as well as shared access through the rear patio area. Staff has determined that the addition to the existing commercial building is harmonious with the area and is in keeping with the intent of the downtown entertainment overlay and the Fremont East District as outlined in the Vision 2045 Downtown Las Vegas Master Plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval. Please note the additional letters of protest that have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners and staff. Brian Wolf, 6585 Escondido Street, Suite D, 89119, representing the application. I'd like to thank staff for working with us on this project. We've met with them a couple times and worked out some of the kinks that was involved. And I'm here to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to Commission. Commissioner Schlotman.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I think this is appropriate, totally fits, and I want to make a motion.
Please do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item 33, SUP 77538, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
You've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And then, Mr. Chairman, on item 34, SDR 77539, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
You've heard it. Please cast your vote. And that motion passes.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on to, let's see, item 35 is obeyed. Director's business. Yep, number 36, TXT 77552, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action on request to amend the development uses section of the Town Center Development Standards Manual to allow motor vehicle sales in the GCTC Special Land Use District with the approval of a special use permit and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to amend the Town Center Development Standards Manual to allow the motor vehicle sales used use via approval of a special use permit within the GCTC General Commercial Town Center Special Land Use District throughout all of the Town Center Master Plan area. Currently, used vehicle sales are permitted as a conditional use in the GCTC Special Land Use District, but only within a specific geographical area known as the Auto Mall area. This amendment would remove the geographical constraint and allow the use within that district, anywhere within the extent of the Town Center plan area, if approved by a special use permit. Staff has no recommendation.
Great. Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Seeing nobody, will close it and go into the commission for discussion. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments or questions, I would like to just entertain a motion for item number 36 for approval, TXT 77552.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post, and that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that will move forward to the City Council in ordinance form, and for clarifications on item number 33 and 34, which are SUP 77538 and SDR 77539, those items were final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you. Okay, going on to item number 37, TXT 77780, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action request to amend minimum special use permit requirements for beer, wine, cooler, off-sale establishment use, LVMC Title 19.12, permissible uses, and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, this request to amend Title 19.12.070 by amending special use permit requirement number 7 for the beer, wine, cooler, on and off-sale establishment use. This amendment will allow waiver of the required distance separation from a church, house of worship, school, individual care center licensed for more than 12 children, or city park to be requested for retail establishments having 15,000 square feet of building area instead of the current requirement of 20,000 square feet under specific circumstances. Staff has no recommendation.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and go to the commissioners. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions or concerns, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 37, TXT 77780.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That item will move forward to City Council in ordinance form.
Thank you. And our final item, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to the matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium, give your name for the record. The amount of discussion of any single subject, as well as the amount of any time a single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I think it's only appropriate that Mr. Klein adjourns the meeting.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right.